All right, thank you once again. If you've just joined in, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service. And time for us to talk a bit of business now. So if you haven't done your BVN, the CBN has directed that banks and other financial institutions to close such accounts that are without BVN, and that is within 30 days. Let's get all the details from our correspondent Vivian Ezeadife.
The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has given banks and other financial institutions a 30-day timeline to close accounts without bank verification, BVN. According to reports, the policy is to address increasing incidents of frauds and to enhance public confidence in the banking industry. It is also to provide a guide for BVN operations and watchlist activities carried out by financial institutions in Nigeria. In another development, the federal government says it has taken significant steps towards providing intervention funds to advance the development of methanol fuel technology for the economic development of the country. Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation gave the assurance during an interactive session with the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry in order to enhance business opportunity for methanol-driven economy. However, the Nigerian government has approved the Nigerian investment policy and adoption of a new National Automotive Industry Development Plan 2023 to 2033. According to reports, the policy is aimed at enabling the exponential increase in the local production number of vehicles, reaching 40% local content and attaining 30% locally produced electric vehicles. This is driven to also generate 1 million jobs, as well as enforce patronage of locally produced vehicles by government and companies working for government and development research. Let's take a look at Monday trading on the floor of the exchange. With business, Vivian Ezeadife.
Thank you very much, Vivian, for the business news package. Coming up next is Newspaper Review.
And our newspaper reviewer Chukwudi Okodigboaja is right here with us. Chukwudi, good to see you on a Tuesday.
How are you, Claire? You hardly make it early in the week. What happened? Anyway, I'm happy to be here. Kingsley, good morning.
Good morning, good to see you.
That's right.
Okay,
thank you.
Okay, so let's start off with the Punch. And the Punch headline is Tinubu's inauguration. That's the lead story. Military IG warned troublemakers as court hears anti-handover case. Details of that on page 2. And the picture there is a picture of Sheon Kuti. Spends night in custody. Police plan arraignment. Details of that on page 15. Now, suspected terrorist blows up self to foil arrest. You can find out all about that on page 5. And Hilda's marathon cooking smashes world record, grabs global attention. Details of that on page 3. Now, stop forced marriage in North. Can urges Tinubu. That's on page 7. And let's take you just above the nameplate. Pay rise. Resident doctors begin warning strike Wednesday. It is on page 14. And U.S. announces visa ban on Nigerian poll riggers and others. It's on page 8. And LG spends 13 trillion naira on subsidy, sets removal guidelines. Details of that on page 19. And the leadership also is leading with another story. Leadership newspaper. Avoid debts, pay salaries or fail. Okonjo Iweala tells governors. Again, avoid debts, pay salaries or fail. Okonjo Iweala tells governors. Now, perform or be voted out. PMB tells governors-elect, let your successors be Saraki Aliyu Dankwambu caution. Okay, the picture story there tells, of course, those who attended the Nigeria Governors Forum's induction lecture. The governors-elect, we have the World Trade Organization, DG. You also have the Amina Mohammed, the Deputy Secretary General of United Nations, also there. Now, other stories trending on the front page. Let me take you. 13 days to go. Threats to inauguration. Perpetrators won't be spared. IGP, it's on page 7. And insecurity, food scarcity raise inflation to 22.22%. It's on page 24. Also, okay, I think that's about what we can take from the front page of the leadership, Kingsley.
Okay, but it's also the Blueprint newspaper. Blueprint, most of the stories that you read earlier are also on the front page. Suspected Boko Haram suspect bombs in Kaduna to evade arrest. Simply to say Boko Haram suspect bombs in Kaduna. Terrorists kill 18, injured 13 in Zamfara. And May 29th inauguration will crush subversive elements, IGP warns. Fingers are great politicians as masterminds. And US imposes visa restrictions on those who undermine 2023 polls. Hilda getting set for new Guinness World Record as longest cookathon. Cookathon, while we are yet to confirm Bachi, that's according to the Guinness World Records. Rescued Chibok girl, Saratu Dauda, leaves behind 3 children. Nigeria's inflation hits 22.2% as food prices rise. Resident doctors to begin warning strike Wednesday. Judiciary under my watch won't condone corruption, according to the CJN. Chukudi.
Thank you, Kingsley. A story has been trending, not one that has been ennobling for us as a people, for young people and all that. I'm talking about the case of Shehu Kuti slapping a policeman. There's a picture of him. I don't know whether we have that there. I think he looks, punch is in the I think he looks, I'm going to say he looks somewhat humbled. Maybe he's introspective. I think he's a bit subdued. And that's a statement. Now, no media trial. He's spent a night in the cell. He's going to be arraigned probably today or tomorrow. No media trial, but let me say that when you assault the king's messenger, I'm going to traditional Africa now. You assault the king's messenger, able-bodied guardsmen of the palace usually come for you. Let them follow all the procedure necessary to ensure fair hearing and all that. I think it's a billable offense. I don't think it's going to be detained beyond 48 hours discretionarily by the, the police in the first instance. So let us all make sure we enthrone the best of behavior in terms of a process of litigation and all that. But I think the point being made is quite clear. I'm clear. We think people don't love the police. That's actually where I'm going. The outcry from Nigerians has really made me proud. And those who also support the action, I marvel, no matter the provocation. Yes. Either way, whether from the civilian or from uniformed men, no matter the provocation, you shouldn't do that. Yeah. You shouldn't do that. Yes. I mean, what we saw trending, on the social media was just awful. Yes. That tells you how much we are on the lane of losing it. We stop talking about National Orientation Agency. clear. If we do not make a U-turn in terms of the tendencies we're showing as a people, something is wrong with society.
Elsewhere, Shehu will go for anger management.
That's part of therapy,
yes,
for him, you know, because he probably was not able to. But there was talk. He said, "Oh, no media trial." Let me stop here, please. Okay.
Well, before we go to another subject matter, yes, let's also be very clear about this. I made my comments on this issue yesterday, and I said that what I will expect to see is the diligent prosecution of this case, no matter who is involved. Any society that is not founded on law and order is bound to collapse. Law and order. The offense is even more grievous because the person who was assaulted is a law enforcement officer in uniform. In uniform. And let also make it very clear that even if it were a private citizen that Shehu slapped, a private citizen, you know, in Nigeria, we don't take it for granted. If you don't take it, I will just slap you, I will just sound you. You just take it for granted. It's assault.
That's what it is.
And you can be civilly and criminally liable for those things. So whether it's a private citizen or, and as I said, it's more aggravated because it's a law enforcement officer, it's just making face. There's no question of media trial or anything. Whether you're looking sober or otherwise, you go and then face, have your time in court, have your day in court, and whatever the judges decide, we'll take it from there. So whether it's a private citizen or not, don't raise your hand and just hit. People just fight in public and so on and so forth. You have heard comments people have made about a Coromado sometimes. Those, of course, who want to be cheeky, they say, oh yeah, that's a law and other society that what you can do elsewhere and get away with it, you can't get away with it. Exactly. Can you go and slap a metropolitan police officer in the
You dare not dare it. You dare not dare it.
And this, feeding airs of I'm celebrated, so nothing can be done. I mean, we should watch it.
We are losing it.
Yes, we should watch it.
Old-fashioned. I marvel. The other time I told you, I asked my children, are you guys really happy the way you live your lives? They said, Dad, we're happy. Why do you ask? I kept quiet.
You see, this I talked about Metropolitan Police in London. Can you try this with the NYPD? New York Police Department. You know where that will end.
Trigger happy guys there.
Of course.
We shoot first and ask questions later.
I like something someone wrote, one of the response to what Sharon did. Someone said, wait until you are in big trouble, then you will know that you will know how important the police is.
The policeman is an important person. Let us learn to respect him or her. Okay. There's this one on the 13 trillion naira, spent on subsidy in 16 years. That's coming from the federal government. The bit I want to, talk about is the caution over not making it all end, just before June or thereabout. The people have become circumspect about it. I think that dialogue solves everything, and for government to reverse the decision, because it was not even included beyond June in terms of budgetary provisions. So for them to say that, it means that somebody is becoming empathic about what's happening in society. Let us gradually go towards the regime of no subsidy and all that, but it has to be a very gradual thing, because this is petroleum related. There's a warning that substandard cooking gas and cylinder would seem to be coming into the country. Please, it matters what the integrity of that can holding your cooking gas is. The other time I told the man who refills a cylinder, my brother, this cylinder is still too heavy. Are you sure I don't still have gas there? He said, oh God, thank your God you have a very good cylinder. That heaviness, that weight tells you that your cylinder is fine and all that. And I went there rather smug. I was satisfied, So it matters that safety measure is ensured, maintained, and let's say retained too, It is very important, the health of the people. We tend to take some things for granted in this country. And if a rigorous litigation process is undertaken in this country, many of the things we take for granted in Nigeria are litigable. It's just that we are rather laid back about some of these things. They will tell you, come on, this is Africa. Isn't everything we take to court? You know. So whoever is importing those things, first of all, we want to know who they are. They can't be faceless. There is a documentation process. There's a consignment regime and all that. Who are they? Prosecution matters if it is proved.
This story on food scarcity, just before we go quickly, food scarcity raising inflation to 22.22%, that's against 22.04% of I want to get the correct, yes, of I think March, March. Now, here, this paper, that's leadership, it's saying that the rise in food inflation on a year-on-year basis was caused by farm products insecurity ravaging the country, which has significantly cut farming activities across the country as authorities look on. So food inflation, we are experiencing food inflation.
Yeah, I think our time is up. Yes, but I think I should be talking into Kingsley's ears. When I tell him I took 2 bags of yam seedlings from Masaka Market 2 Saturdays ago, Kingsley will look at me as if I'm an alien. I'm not giving anybody yam, so the FAO has won that hunger. I'm not joking. He's looking at me. You guys should manage.
I will go to the market. Masaka is for seedlings. I will go to the market. There is Garki market, there is Wuse market, there is Utako market. A tuber now is between 1,005 and 1,007.
It depends on where you buy it. A tuber is 2,000.
No. Hang on.
I don't know where you buy yours.
I have, as Nigerians would say, I have my customer.
Your customer.
He's the smart customer. Nice guy. He had traded at Shagamu for many years. So whenever he sees me, he says, are
you sure you are not buying?
Is it for pounded? Or is it for eating? I say, I tell him to want the specifications I want.
Kingsley, just leave us alone. Our time is up. I discovered something. 1 minute, please. They showed me that potato is the easiest to cultivate. I thought they were putting little tubers in the soil. No! It's just a little stem you stick in
the soil. They have them in bags. You can also cultivate it in bags. In jute bags.
Are you saying there's something I need to learn from you?
For 1,000 naira, that tuber must be mixed.
I didn't say 1,000 naira. I said between 1,005 and 1,007. You didn't hear me correctly. What I said was is between 1,005. Hang on, I didn't say. If you are buying 2,000, they are cheating you.
They're not.
After Good Morning Nigeria today, let's go.
Okay.
I will take you to the mall and I will tell you, say, I don't want to laugh.
Our business, I'm sure that will be the topic for the next.
The thing I'm complaining about is the price of plantain. That's the only one I'm complaining about. Plantain and banana. All right, those ones are so expensive now. You will see 4 miserable fingers inside. So let us go. No. Because of the way you go to the market, that's what they are telling you. Miserable fingers. They tell me, 1,000 last. 4 miserable fingers of plantain. Yes. This one not strong. I saw that. I saw with Snamo. Some of them will hold the box of this one. That is for 5,000.
All right, let's take a break. And Kingsley has already challenged me to a market duel, which I would, gladly take up after.
Don't dress and go like this to the market. That's the only thing I would tell you.
Oh, she should go in rags.
No. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. As a prompt for our conversation, which is on assets declaration by public officers, let's listen to this backgrounder compiled by our correspondent Joseph Otsen.
Issues of assets and liability declaration have been resonating the airwaves with just 14 days to the inauguration of new government in Nigeria. The Code of Conduct Bureau is asking the President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the Vice President-elect Kashim Shettima, and 28 incoming governors to declare their assets before May 29th. Other officers, including senators-elect and reps-elect, are expected to declare their assets on or before June 5th, when they will be sworn in. Outgoing officials, including presidential aides, 28 state governors and their cabinet members, national and state assembly members, and local government chairmen are also expected to equally obtain the asset declaration form from the Code of Conduct Bureau and submit the same in line with the 1999 Constitution. The Code of Conduct Bureau is making this stand on the provision of the nation's constitution, which stipulates that all public officers shall declare their assets and liability on the assumption of office and at the end of their tenure of office. Every declarant is required by law to declare his or her assets and liabilities, including that of his spouses, who is not a public officer, and children under 18 years of age, to the Bureau within 30 days of the receipt of the forms. These include number, address, and value of property so declared, and the date of acquisition, as well as income derivable from the property where appropriate. All property and assets acquired outside Nigeria must be stated clearly with the value of the said asset in the currency of the country where the property is situated. For public officers on continuous employment of government, whether federal, state, or local government, they are to do so at the interval of 4 years and at other intervals, as the Bureau may determine from time to time. Failure attracts possible removal from office, disqualification from holding any public office, forfeiture to the state, any property acquired in abuse of office or dishonesty. By implication, defaulting officers will not be sworn in. But how much of these have the law upheld in the past? Has the Code of Conduct Bureau lived up to its responsibility of prosecuting offenders? Is this constitutional provision having any impact at all? These questions and other related issues will engage guests on Good Morning Nigeria.
Joseph Oteng there giving us the background report. Let's quickly introduce our guests. We'll begin with those right here in the studio. And Zephaniah Ishaku Bulus is a board member, Code of Conduct Bureau, CCB, and he's right here in our studio. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
Anwar Musa Rafsanjani is Executive Director, Civil Society Legislative Council of Nigeria, CISLAC. It's quite a while.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
Thank you.
All right. Now, also with us in the studio is Abdullahi Ibrahim Jallo. He's a lawyer and public affairs analyst. Abdullahi Jallo, we're glad to have you this morning.
Kinsley, welcome to viewers, particularly yourself.
Thank you. Let's begin with Zephaniah Ishaku Bulus. This would appear now on the basis of our electoral calendar, as well as the coming and going of elected public officers, to be a seasonal focus, as it were, on assets declaration. But we do know, of course, that there are other categories of public officers who do not follow the usual cycle. But tell us, what has been the experience of the Code of Conduct Bureau in terms of just observing the goings and comings of assets declaration?
Thank you so much, and good morning once again, viewers. Incidentally, this may seem to be the apt season for CCB when it comes to issue of asset declaration, especially as it relates to elected public officers, spanning from Mr. President to governors and then members of the National Assembly, as well as members of state houses of assembly. Now, this season also is one season whereby we have quite a few officers who are also exiting office at this moment. So it's actually a very hectic season for us in terms of administering asset declaration for these categories of public officers. Some of them appointed and majorly elected. And so it's quite a time for us to do our work seriously, notwithstanding the fact that it is also a season whereby there are other categories of officers who actually we administer asset declaration to. So, but in a nutshell, I think it is a season whereby our activities are actually at its height, but not to say that our activities are not usually, our activities are in all honesty not seasonal. It is only seasonal because of the elections that just came by. Yes.
I don't know what Nigerians will be saying, whether they would agree with you, but you know, when you said this is your season, I mean your on and off season. This is the season of CCB. But a lot of people would wonder why, you know, whether CCB is actually, you know, active after these on seasons.
Now, CCB's activities is not only restricted to just issuing out this asset declaration at this moment or at this peak period. The moment asset declarations are issued out, we go into the next phase, which is a constitutional requirement also on the part of CCB to examine asset declaration or to verify those declarations that are made. You know, it's a whole lot of period that is involved in it. It's not a one-off exercise, but it is an exercise that is continuing on a daily basis.
Talk us through how you do that.
Our verification of assets actually starts at the point of submission of those forms. Once public officers submit their forms, it is expected that our officers in the field will actually go through these forms and ensure that yes, these forms are first properly completed. And apart from that, we go on to verify such claims, not only, you know, because CCB is not the custodians of all the records as it relates to what officers or public officers have declared. Take for instance, if Mr. X has declared a motor vehicle, now what we do is to contact the necessary and relevant agencies that handle the documentation of such declarations to confirm whether or not such property belongs to him or her as declared. So it's a hell lot of process that actually CCB does not do it all by itself alone, because we have to go through land registries, through banks verification, which is now made much easier because of the assistance we actually receive today from the NFIU, which makes verification of bank accounts seamlessly easy for us.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Bulus. We'll turn to you shortly. Awal Rafsanjani, let's bring you in at this time. We talked about the peak season for assets declaration, incoming and outgoing public officers, and the others. Is this, in your opinion, now a merely routinized compliance process with the constitutional requirements, or is still regarded very seriously as a cardinal point in the entry and exit of public officers?
Thank you very much, and good morning, listeners. For us in CISLAC, even before the election, we embark on a lot of activities to first create even the awareness that the Code of Conduct Bureau existed in this country, because many Nigerians, they actually did not know, or they forgot that institution, very important institution, the only institution mentioned in our constitution that's supposed to be fighting corruption. Many Nigerians have not familiarized themselves with that very important agency, and this is simply because you can see there's a lot of issues, a lot of problems associated with its operation, its function. So therefore, for us, it was very important that we create the necessary awareness, not only for ordinary Nigerians, but also for the public officials who are supposed to ensure that they declare their asset before taking public office and even after they left office. Now the truth is that even though it's a constitutional requirement, but the Bureau itself is incapacitated to do its work. When you declare your asset, the asset can be in Abuja, can be outside Abuja, can be in abroad. They do not have the required human, capacity to be able to genuinely verify the asset declared by particular public officers. So that is why they get away with it, and you can see even the Constitution requires the National Assembly members, even before they take their oath, to actually declare their asset, and those assets be verified. As I speak to you, the agency is one of the least funded agency. The National Assembly and the Presidency, they have conspired to undermine the effectiveness of that agency because they are not funding it. And even when we talk about amending the act to make it to be more efficient, more effective, and for public officers to really know that if they do anything that is fraudulent or they acquire any asset that is not within what the law permits, those assets can be investigated, and if they are found guilty, they can be punished. So it has become like a ceremonial agency. Each time we want to do election, some people, for the purpose of filling the form, they do anticipatory declaration. Somebody has 10 million. The person calculated that, okay, by the time I finish, I will probably steal 500 million. Because there's no means to verify in the first place even how those assets were acquired and where are they are located. They continue to siphon public taxpayers' money. You see somebody just being elected within 6 months, everything in him or on her has changed, from houses to cars to wife, everything. And you see how and because of the inability for the National Assembly to play its oversight role also, because the National Assembly has a responsibility to also play oversight. If they are playing oversight, they will have been able to know there are challenges with the Bureau, either in terms of capacity or in terms of funding or in terms of even public access to declaration. So the conduct need to be the Bureau need to be acts need to be amended to make it to be more transparent, because people are just making anticipatory declaration, and when they leave office, nobody is checking them, and that is why you see all these billions and billions and trillions acquired simply because they are holding a particular public office. So if we are serious about fight against corruption, the Bureau, that Code of Conduct Bureau, and even the tribunal must be more energetic, must be more active, must be more operational, and be more even transparent in how they do things. Many civil societies send requests to know the asset declared by certain people, but they will tell you that no, they will not give you. So the freedom of information law that Nigerians are using to even apply for that, they didn't get it. They didn't get any information. So which means that we need to see how we can amend the act so that the act can actually enable Nigerians to access in other countries. There's nothing to hide. If you are a governor or a minister or a president, in your website, all the information concerning your asset and your spouses are there to check by anybody. It removes even doubt and suspicious thing. But you see, in Nigeria, this secrecy thing is still, within the Nigerian public officials. So I think the Bureau needs to do everything possible to draw the attention of the National Assembly and the Executive about its own internal, incapacitation, whether it is funding, whether it is capacity to verify, whether it is coordination and cooperation. You made mention that they have synergy working with some agencies, but I tell you, many of these agencies, they are working in silo, they are working on their own. No much cooperation or coordination. Even if they send requests, they won't even listen to them. So within the agencies themselves, there's a very poor coordination and cooperation in terms of harnessing this information to verify what a public officer had declared, or had not declared, So it is important that we continue to raise this awareness so that if we say we are fighting corruption, all these estates that people are acquiring with illicit funds, the Bureau, if they are actually active, they should be able to be one of the biggest anti-corruption. In fact, they are supposed to be the biggest anti-corruption in Nigeria, because they are dealing with public official, asset. Whether they are in office, whether they have left office, they have the responsibility to tell Nigerians how this XYZ acquire this. Within the period that we serve, this is what you have. Before you come, this is what you have. That will sanitize Nigeria. It will sanitize the political processes. People who have intention to come to political space will build a mess with this, code of conduct. They will be scared, because they know that everything will be on the open, and public will see that you are a looter, you are a thief. But if the Bureau is just to be doing this ceremonial thing, and then just doing thing in silence and not touching anybody, how many people have they prosecuted?
Okay, Ratanjani, thank you. Let's put you on hold and bring in Malam Jalo into our conversation. Well, asset declaration is supposed to do two major things. One, it is supposed to manage, conflict of interest, and secondly, it is also supposed to make public officers account for the assets, that they acquire before and after, service. At least justify their assets. It is enshrined in our constitution. It is a constitutional requirement. It is mandatory. But we've also seen very top government officials, public officials, refusing blatantly to comply, to declare their assets. I mean, we know, we have names. Malam Jalu, what is the legal gap?
Well, Moji, the point is,
yes,
as a lawyer, when you are here to say something about code of conduct, what will come to mind is we do this asset declaration in 4 years. From there, when you say it, Kingsley is declaring his asset in 4 years, when you come to an intelligent person, it will just justify that there is a lacuna, there is a gap. Because 4 years, it is the period when the politician will finish their offices, or when they will come. What needs to be done is, if we are doing the right thing, at least a declaration should be yearly. The constitutional provision need to be amended. That's why I asked my colleague that, since you came in, within the political period started, have you amended the act? He said it is just now that they are taking the act to the National Assembly. So I stopped there. So now, coming to your question, we now know it's 4 years for one to us to declare his assets, which ordinarily it shouldn't be like that. Because we as politicians, we know how to circumvent the law. Just as the case of Bokola Sarasaki and the chairman, Court of Conduct, Justice Daladi. We know where it starts and we know where it stops Kingsley, whether maybe the case is still there or not. So what will come to mind is we look at the provision of the Court of Conduct proper and make the necessary amendments if we are ready. You don't apportion blame to Mr. A or B. We are all part of the system. If we are ready, we should be ready to do the needful.
But the provision comes with consequences enshrined in the Constitution. There are consequences, and the CCB is also mandated. It has the power to prosecute.
The point issue in this. We now know that the prosecution will only come if you have not declared the assets.
Okay.
get it just very clear.
Yeah.
Don't
Just failure to declare.
failure
To declare. That's when CCB can now apply.
Then if you declare, as said by Rafsanjani, there are a lot of looting. What do we do? What is the provision says? The issue is, the provision is silence. You cannot even talk of somebody who has failed to declare. He has been arrested or he has been taken. Don't forget, even the popular case of Bogola Saraki, even though because there were a lot of political reasons, it shouldn't have happened. Get this clear, we are in this country. So there is a need for us to put things straight. Is it declaration of assets or verification of assets?
Well, thank you, Abdullahi Ibrahim Jallo. The question you pose now is an important one, but the two functions are coterminous. They are not exclusive. The business of declaration of assets is that of the public officer. The business of verification is that of the bureau. And when the officer makes a declaration, it's on oath. And he doesn't make a declaration and keep it to himself. You make a declaration on oath and pass it to the Code of Conduct Bureau. And the Code of Conduct Bureau then undertakes the verification. And when there are discrepancies, of course, questions arise. But I think that perhaps there's a more fundamental issue that we should also be taking a look at. Namely, how well resourced is the Code of Conduct Bureau? We have said that, yes, it looks cyclical now, that every 4 years politicians or elected officials are coming and others are going. But the Code of Conduct covers everyone who is employed in the public service, local government, state government, and federal government. This will include military officers, it will include paramilitary, customs, immigration. We are hearing about the passport racketeering in immigration. Some 80 officers are on trial because of this scarcity of so-called new passport photographs, or new passport, international passport. You have public officers all over the place. Those of them who are in the universities, vice chancellor, deputy vice chancellor, registrar, professors, lecturers, NTA staff, you name them. 600, the federal government has 600 agencies plus to deal with, and these persons are supposed to make a declaration. And it is not just in Abuja, it is in the states, it is in the local governments. How many staff do you have in the first place to be receiving these things and then to be going through them one after the other, and then once you spot a gap, you are able to arrest and say, all right, we have a case here?
Thank you. I actually appreciate this concern that you have raised, especially the concern raised by Rafsanjani about the issue of funding and about the issue of capacity. But I will also make it very clear that CCB in its existence in past 33 years or close to 35 years now has offices all over the Federation. We have offices all over the Federation, which we know the enormous tax and responsibilities on CCB. But I would not want to open our book of lamentation here, so that we focus majorly on the issue at stake. The issue of whether or not CCB has capacity. I will tell you as a matter of fact that we have put in place various mechanisms this day to look into issues of asset verification. Now, our tax is not majorly to only receive asset declaration. That receiving asset declaration is followed by issue of examination of those asset declarations. Now, we also expect that, yes, there are situations whereby there are gaps in verification. But then, basically, we actually have officers who look deeply into such issues. And that is why I also made it clear initially that we also work in synergy with other anti-corruption agencies, although some of them came much later after CCB. But then we still do work hand in hand with them. And you'll discover too that in most cases where you find public officers being prosecuted, you'll always take note of one area of mention in such prosecutions. You'll always discover that they will mention that this officer did not have this property in his asset declaration. And so that is one area of work that we have done. I bet it will just say silently, but then this is a major focus of CCB. We carry out verification. And of course, you know, the scope of verification is wide. And when it comes to verification, you are sure that you cannot, as a matter of honesty, look at verification of assets from Mr. President down to the local government level. So there are selected areas whereby we carry out such verifications.
Okay. No, but I'm sorry. The question I asked is about your capacity to even undertake your functions. And you're saying you don't want to open a book of lamentations here, which is understandable. But let us know. If you are well resourced, why not? Go ahead and then continue to do your work. But if you face challenges, I've just told you, the population of public officers in Nigeria could very well be over 1 million or more. And each of these public officers are required to file their assets declaration forms. You have offices, they will be at the Federal Secretariat in the states. What is your capacity to go through these assets forms? Look at even just political office holders. If you are an SA at the state level, you file your asset declaration. If you are an SSA, you file your asset declaration. If you are a commissioner, you file your assets declaration. If you are a judicial officer, you file your assets declaration. Deputy governor, you file. Speaker, you file. Governor, you file. What capacity do you have? Or do you then wait for a trigger, such as a petition about assets possessed by an individual, which may not be on the form? Bulus.
No, we actually don't wait for a trigger. I think one of the questions, the fundamental question you want me to answer is the question of capacity. Now, CCB as it is today, actually, in most honesty, yes. We know that we don't have more than 2,000 staff handling well over 4 million public officers. But again, you know, as a matter of fact, that laws cannot be enforced 100%, no matter what you do. And so with our capacity today, what we are doing actually is, you know, today the online issue of asset declaration is going to make it seemingly easy for us to administer and also to look and to profile public officers. These are areas that we are working on so that we have it seamlessly easy to get areas of highlights. It's going to be very easy to highlight and say, we have a red flag here. When you look at asset declaration, which can be done through the ICT today. Yes.
Okay, you said earlier that the CCB is 33 years, or was 33 years, so it will as well be a fact that, you know, corruption itself has also grown in leaps and bounds, in part, you know, for the fact that CCB as one of those agencies, you know, mandated to also, you know, fight corruption, you know, has also been found wanting in some areas. But my question specifically is this: when you do your verification, which I presume is secretly, you do it without the knowledge or consent of the public servant involved. What happens when you discover any anomaly? What do you do?
Yes, thank you so much. Once we discover such breaches we actually prefer charges and then charge such individuals to the tribunal. But sadly to say, and which is one of the areas whereby we are looking at the amendment of the Act, you know, the Code of Conduct Bureau and the Code of Conduct Tribunal are sister agencies. And so you have to look at the Act completely. Now, as it stands today, the Code of Conduct Tribunal, which is the arm that CCB prosecutes, we only have one tribunal all over the country, and it's constitutional. That is part of the challenges that we are facing as CCB. Now, I want to say and put it on record today that clearly CCB has well over 6,000 cases pending before the Code of Conduct Tribunal, whereas you have only one Code of Conduct Tribunal with a chairman and 2 other members all over the country. And so it brings to challenge that yes, it's also a constitutional problem. It's also a fundamental problem that has to be solved. And one of the areas where we are looking at it being solved is through the amendment that is before the National Assembly today. Now, the whole idea is to unbundle the tribunal so that cases by Code of Conduct Bureau are easily prosecuted. You find Code of Conduct Tribunal can sit only on one condition, when the chairman is sitting with one other member, whereas we have only one chairman and 2 other members. So even 2 members at the tribunal cannot even sit. So that is a fundamental problem that the amendment wants to address actually.
So I know that you also know about the issues involving some of our very top government officials in, you know, the Pandora and the Panama issues and all that. What has been the input of CCB in investigating those names that have been alleged to have amassed, you know, assets?
I would actually love to skip that question for now, as a matter of fact, because these are issues that have some international dimension to it, and CCB's well-being in terms of carrying out this particular issue has to be skipped for now.
Okay, thank you very much, Zephaniah Bulus. I want to come back to, excuse me, Abdullahi Jallo. Excuse me, with respect to the operation of the Code of Conduct Tribunal. Well, the Code of Conduct Tribunal has retained its original structure and in terms of the functioning, which is why Bulus earlier was talking about the constraints of prosecution. But is this really a big deal? Is this a big deal? Can the Code of Conduct not ultimately have various divisions in different parts of the country? And then you populate them with 3 members each, whether it's a sub-chairman you want to call it or otherwise. Is this something that requires any rigmarole? I'll give you an example with the tax appeal tribunals. Tax appeal tribunals, you have them sitting in different parts of the country. So,
well, Kinsley, you see, I'm happy that Zephaniah has said it all. In a country of about 200 million, and you have only one tribunal with 2 members, that goes to answer your question. If and only if we are going to be sincere, take the case of EFCC and ICPC. They are all over the country. And now, to come to your question straight, we have created BVN so that Abdullah Jallo's account will be seen by EFCC and ICPC every day, and Moji, Bola and yourself, so that they will, as they are seeing what we are doing and where our source of money is coming from. And we have a judiciary all over the country, which is just the federation, where there is no state that has no high courts, Sharia courts, and the rest. So now, to come and answer your question, why is it that this code of conduct is so special that it has only one judge all over the country with 2 members? It's really a taboo. It's very funny, and the members, that is the legislatures, know this very well, that in each state of the federation there is a governor and there are members of assembly, and this procedure or this asset declaration is applicable to them, including the staff that are working in various governments of the state and local governments. So now it's like to allow Kingsley in the National Assembly to say we are going to make a law for independent candidates and to remove immunity clause, which I am stealing from it. So they know it, and the proper thing to do, as you said, what is the big deal? The big deal is interest. The right thing need not to be done. Let me just tell you, Kingsley, this is the first time I appear here, and to draw you home. We are in this country. Take the entire judiciary of this country, which I was part of them. Their entire budget is 40 billion. The National Assembly is collecting 140 billion in a year. So we know what is happening, and we are not ready for the change. This amendment of Code of Conduct Bureau Act is very sad that there is a need for us to have this Code of Conduct Bureau in every state which we have, and the tribunals should exist in every state. And then it must go pari passu in tandem with prosecution, failure to declare asset, as I said, and then verification if there are some dubious activities in my asset declaration and verification, which I will be subjected to prosecution. Let me make a rider. Recently, we all know that even the Prime Minister of Pakistan was taken to prison. So also France, because of transparency. So you are doing a good job in NTA, and we are now telling our viewers and that look, Nigerians know why Code of Conduct tribunals are not in states. It's an issue of we are not ready for a change. Simple.
It's quite interesting. Dr. Johnny, I'm just wondering really, if we have a CCB that it's supposed to, verify assets of our public officers, and the CCB has the full mandate of the Constitution, and the Constitution provides the powers to prosecute, the consequences, that will befall whoever fails to declare, and even when such declarations, are made and are exceeded, according to the board member and all that, do we still require a further legislation?
So actually, the Code of Conduct Bureau, the way it was designed at that time, probably it didn't also envisage that we are going to have democracy and democratic looters all over, because now what you have is that you have popular looting in Nigeria. Before the act was put together, you have limited number of public officials who are stealing secretly, not even openly. Now go to all the local government, from the local government to the state and the national level, is like if you are not even part of this looting thing, it is like you are a caste. Okay, so that is the reason why, if we are sincere about fight against corruption, the first place you will first look at is to even look at the very agency that is mentioned, the only agency that is mentioned in our constitution, which is the code of conduct. Now the politician, they know that this is going to haunt them, and that is why they don't want to go near there. And part of what we are doing as part of our anti-corruption agenda, supporting the sincere effort of government, is to first look at the bureau. We've been relating with them, training a lot of Nigerian, a lot of even journalists, working to ensure that the bureau is known, its function is known, because it is supposed to be preventing corruption, it is supposed to be detecting corruption, it is supposed to also serve as a lesson for anybody who violates the law. Now, when people got frustrated, we had to advocate for having beneficial ownership register, which is also helping to identify those who are actually acquiring illicit funds and assets, in this country. So the law is.
What I'm saying is, do we really? Is it really a legal gap in law, or rather the capacity that they require to do the job?
Both. Actually, both. There's need, because all these amendments that we are talking about,
they don't even have a structure.
It's part of
they don't even have a structure. The CCB does not have a structure of its own.
That's part of what we are saying. That's why we say we need to look at
They don't have a structure. They have an organizational structure.
Where?
No, this organizational structure.
No, a building, a physical structure. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, well, let me just land.
No, sorry.
Just what I want to say is that, you see, both the legal and the capacity, operational capacity, they are all required to make that place effective and efficient. He said that they don't want to look at the international dimension, but the laws also did not say time to look at people who have looted the money to go and keep in London or in Europe or in America or in Paris. That is why the very important question you raised, none of the agencies in Nigeria that are fighting corruption, they are able to do anything. On Pandora, Panama and Paradise, we in CISLAC, Transparency International, we have done a lot of work together with other groups like the Prominent Investigative Journalism. We've done a lot of work around that, and even transmit that to the anti-corruption agencies to see how our both serving and retired public official looted the nation, went and keep them in the safe haven. They are not even looking at that one. The reason why you see some of these assets that are being traced in abroad, it is because of the activism that the civil society in Nigeria are doing. That's why we even push and advocated for the British government. Today, if you want to buy a house, you have to explain where you find the money. This is courtesy of the international advocacy we have done from Nigeria, along together with our partners in the UK, to get UK to commit such kind of thing. In Nigeria, the real estate, you know what is happening. A civil servant, just 2 civil servants, ICPC arrested them, possessing over 300 houses. If the CCB is working, wouldn't they be able to trace that? They will be able to do that. So the truth of the matter is that if we are serious about, even if you don't want to fight corruption, look, you need to sanitize this country to have the necessary peace and fairness in this country. Why should, simply because you are appointed as government agency, as a government official, then you start looting? Look at, just recently a minister was actually relieved for allegation of cornering billions of money, and that's why when they keep on borrowing this money, subsidizing this pure thing, you carry 7 trillion and you say you are doing subsidy. If this subsidy is really happening, Nigerians' life will have been changed. In 1 year alone, you spend 7 trillion subsidizing for corruption. So the truth of the matter is that we need to make sure that we continue to advocate for the amendment of the act to make it effective and efficient and be able to do the work it is originally envisaged by the constitution. If you continue to do this massaging thing,
politician will just be happy with that.
All right, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We still have our guests with us discussing assets declaration by public officers. Now, I think that it is useful to also contextualize something. Assets declaration does not mean that you cannot own property or you cannot own assets. Assets are usually in two forms. What in law you will call personality and realty. Realty is one we know mostly, that's to say real estate and so on and so forth. Personality could be, of course, your bank deposits, your choices in action, and all that. So if you own, let's say, I'm giving an example now, you own 1 trillion naira in your account. If you are a public officer, declare it in your account, in your assets declaration form that I own 1 trillion naira. There is a column there for you to also state how you made that 1 trillion. If it is by inheritance, you state it is by inheritance. If it is by playing the stock market, you state by playing the stock market. I wouldn't know whether it will also encourage you to say that even by gambling, that you put that by gambling. That's what I'm not sure of, because I try to sort that one out sometime. Because if you're a public officer, you are engaging in gambling. Whether that could also be against the code of conduct for public officers. So it is not that you own something that is the issue. It is how you acquired it that is actually the government of all of this. So if there are persons who declare all kinds of farms that they own, and the sources of ownership, the sources are either vague or otherwise. But again, we must also recognize that over the years, a number of other anti-corruption agencies have come on, mainly ICPC and EFCC, and they have secured quite some convictions on the basis that CCB and CCT are unable to do. But I was just wondering, is there collaboration, for instance, between the CCB and other anti-corruption agencies that seem to have more regular prosecution of corruption cases? I believe that EFCC, for instance, deals with private and public officers. But is there collaboration so that when they are putting that together, their proofs of evidence, some of these things can come up, considering your own inadequacies?
Yeah, thank you so much once again. I think I mentioned that much earlier in my discussion here, that whenever you find major success in prosecution by either the EFCC and the ICPC, you will always take note of a phrase that, and this property or that property was not found in his asset declaration. So basically, CCB serves also like a data bank in terms of asset declaration to some of these institutions. Yes, we do collaborate with them, basically, and we share information and we give out information.
Okay, be clear. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't follow up to that. I know we've been talking about Pandora Papers, Paradise Papers, Panama. How do you deal with proxy ownership?
Now, that is one area of challenge generally, because once properties are under hidden names, now, except you are able to pin it down precisely to who has such properties, it's usually a major challenge. We know for sure, as a matter of fact, that yes, there are people who have properties under pseudonyms. But one of the things that is going to help the Bureau, and not only the Bureau, is also the POCA, the Proceeds of Crime Act, which just came into being recently. So that gives all the anti-corruption agencies listed the ability to actually seize properties and now make the proof of ownership on the owner himself. So that's the only way that I think the act itself is focused towards that particular area, whereby people hide properties under pseudonyms. If you look at that of the Bureau from day one took note of the fact that it's a possibility that public officers will hide assets under other names. And one of the key areas where our focus remained essentially first was on family members, on spouses and children, because these were areas whereby people will hide assets in those days. But today it has taken a very big dimension that people hide assets under friends and others who they trust. And of course, you know, some of them have ended up losing such assets.
It's a headache anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let me also ask you, Mr. Bolis. I don't know, because if you drive around the capital city, for instance, the very highbrow areas, I'm sure you also have noticed the best of the best state-of-the-art structures springing up in the highbrow areas of the capital city. And if you had the opportunity of even, you know, peeping or driving into, you find fleet of assorted cars, you know, in those places. At the moment, who are those under your radar? What category of people are under your radar?
No, based on the provisions of the Constitution, those under our radar are the elected public officials, the appointed public officials, and then the co-civil servants. But to say that who have
civil servants like us? I am a civil servant.
You're not a civil servant.
Yes,
I'm a civil servant.
Public officer. Yes, you cannot lay claim to the fact that it's only the political class or the elected class that are into corruption or corrupt practices. In fact, some of them will gladly tell you that we are being aided by the career officers. When it comes to issue of corruptions, they will tell you that, oh, it's the civil servants or the public career officers that actually showed us the path through which we can actually. So it's a two-way issue. Both the leadership and then the followership too are also all involved in this issue.
I was just wondering, I don't know whether it's part of our jurisprudence just yet. All right, so let me leave out the thought process very quickly and pose the question. If you earlier you talked about proxy ownership, transfers now from close family members to friends and associates, but when there is information, it's possible to also go after such a friend or after such an associate and say, how did you acquire this? If you're a businessman, show us your books. But in terms of inheritance, I don't know whether it's now part of our estate jurisprudence to say, oh, so much is the inheritance of a family after the person had passed away. I think it would be awkward asking the beneficiaries to justify it if they didn't acquire it in the first instance or beyond the legitimate means of that individual. But the principal witness in that case, of course, would have been beyond justice. I'm just thinking aloud. But very quickly, Rafsanjani, let me come back to you. Ultimately, assets declaration is not for the fun of it. And by the way, assets declaration was an idea that was conceived under the military regime. Because then it was obvious that one of the things that we needed to deal with as a country is corruption in public office, among public officers. And therefore, when we look back, President Muhammadu Buhari made anti-corruption a cardinal fight for his administration. And we have also heard reviews to say that the kind of blatant corruption that went on years past isn't so prevalent anymore. Can we say that in a sense, at least, yes, step by step, we are winning the war, and the kind of in-your-face disposition that some public officers used to display isn't as prominent anymore?
Well, since we are telling ourselves the truth and we want the nation, to get it right, we don't need to do this diplomatic talk. If we are actually fighting corruption in Nigeria, like I said, the Code of Conduct Bureau will have been one of the priority agency that government should actually empower to go after public official, whether appointed, whether elected, or whether those top civil servants, because like I mentioned to you, in the absence of some of the action that the code of conduct is supposed to be doing, ICPC has been arresting public servants, civil servants, for owning, how can you be a civil servant then you own about 300 houses? Definitely you have, something is wrong. So ICPC, we commend the ICPC for helping the code of conduct to do its work, because if those civil servants have declared their asset and the code of conduct had been verifying that, they would have seen that that this thing have been acquired through illegal means. Secondly, we have also pushed to have beneficial ownership register, because beneficial ownership register will help to complement the work that the Bureau is also doing. Because now, like I mentioned to you, in the UK, unlike before, if you carry money, Nigerians used to carry cash to go to UK to buy houses. Now you cannot buy anything in the UK. You have to explain how you made the money, and this is courtesy of the advocacy that civil society that is making globally, including Nigeria. And we here in civil society, we also partner with our colleagues in the UK to get that law in the UK. So I think the issue is that when we talk about fight against corruption, it's not about propaganda, and it's not about this convention that we are talking about. It is to have a system that will in the first place prevent the corruption from happening. Because if you allow the corruption to happen, the resources you will use to cure the sin or to find solution to it, will have been too much when you could have actually prevented it from happening. And if it is, say, the room is given the necessary support it required to do its work, and they will not also be political, because I can see that part of their constraint is that the reason why they don't want to allow any information to be released on asset declaration of an individual, even though people use freedom of information law to request for that, is because they want to be political. So, but your work, you are not supposed to be political. You are supposed to be technical professional and to be honest, so that you don't do any cover. So, because of your covering sin, the governors have their way. Nobody can touch any governor. Not to talk of even the National Assembly members who are supposed to even help to oversight the deficiency that you are even having. I don't even know whether you are having interaction with them to show them the challenges that you are facing, because any serious committee in the National Assembly that is supposed to be fighting corruption should be able to push forward some of these things. And more importantly, the executive that say we want to fight corruption, they should have been able to look at this thing. Like I said, it's not about propaganda, it's not about campaign, it's not about self-acclaim success in the fight against corruption. It's putting system in place that will detect and prevent and prosecute and sanction those who have violated our law. So it is not about I'm going to do this. No, it's no longer about I will. No, let us, because we have spent like almost 8 years now. Nigeria and the international community should have seen clear changes, not this media abracadabra saying that people come and do in the name of fighting corruption, and then later you now release the crooks, somebody who you have celebrated, you have arrested somebody, and then somebody will make phone call, and then you release the person. And not only that, you even appoint the person. What we are even facing today is that people who have been wanted by anti-corruption agencies are now being put forward for election, for leadership position in this country. Is that how you fight corruption? Political corruption is the major cancer of corruption we are facing in Nigeria. And if any government will not deal decisively with the political corruption, and that's how they use illicit financial money to come and buy a vote, buy election. We are not conducting election in many places in this country.
Thank you. Let me we have just 2 minutes to end our conversation. But I just want to ask you, what do you think about the process of administering, even the mandate itself, to the recipients? Because he had said, I have an issue. public servants were expected to go collect the forms and fill. And of course, a lot of people are not doing that. They are not even declaring, as you noted. He has also said, okay, they want to move, to online. Even the online, people might still not be, if there is no way of making that requirement more stringent. I don't know. Do you think the process can be made more, much more forceful?
Okay, sometimes, some couple of years, I think about 9 years ago, we went to Deberu. As usual, civil society want to see how they can support, the functioning and the effectiveness of the Deberu. We sat down and said, okay, what can we do? Can we monitor even some public officials and then be able to see all these assets that they are acquiring, so that we can even provide information to you that will be verifiable, that will be credible, and very authoritative. We have agreed to discuss this, and nothing happens. Secondly, to digitalize the whole process will help, like he said, in reducing the tension, because ask him, they don't have up to 50 investigative verifiers.
The first step is even to get people to declare. How do we make? You have to show example. People who have refused to do that, you have to send them to jail. The law is not for repression.
Yeah, I should remind that that's a strict liability offense. If the law mandates that you declare your assets every 4 years and you fail to declare, you have committed an offense.
Exactly.
That's a strict liability offense,
Exactly.
I believe. I wanted to raise something, Claire. I wanted to raise something, because the goal is not just to declare assets. You can be the wealthiest guy, declare your assets as a public officer, justify the sources, and you move on. But I'm just wondering if the goal of anti-corruption and some of the stories we keep hearing, are we focusing too much on using the law and law and law? Look, how can we, for example, deploy psychologists and psychiatrists into this whole anti-corruption fight? Because it may seem like a joke, but somebody must be crazy to acquire 300 houses. On the day the person will die and the person is being buried, even if they were to, well, that's gory, dismember the individual. Where would they bury the person? That 300 houses, somebody must be sick, to be saying, I want to acquire this, I want to acquire it, and your life is finite. So are we employing our psychologists sufficiently? Are we employing our psychiatrists sufficiently in our public enlightenment and campaign against corruption?
Well, the time is too short. You said it's 2 minutes.
Just
you
one minute.
have raising a very fundamental question. Let's our discussion be very clear to the viewers. Nobody denies anybody to own things legally. You have others. For example, my father died and I'm working, and he left a lot of assets for me. So what is that? I have now an additional asset that I have acquired. I go and declare it. This is legal. If I'm doing a business, Clara is doing a business and she gets a legal money, nobody denies her to go and declare it. But the point is, issue is, which you have raised that question and we have not answered, is for me to be in an office where I know a permanent secretary was appointed 2 days ago. He was paying a debt of what he has paid, about 500 to 1 billion in a couple of days. This is where our discussion center on illegally acquired money. Nobody denies anybody in this country to own houses and to have this forum is not for that, but we are hammering on legally acquired assets and legally acquired. I will be a civil servant. I will be doing this business of land sales and then other business. So legally I will have something, but that money should be legal. But for me to enter an office today and tomorrow I become multi-billionaire, that's where the question is.
All right, let's bring in Malam Willis for the last time. So, what is going on in your mind now? What is the way forward, you think?
Yeah, the way forward, and especially when it comes to issue of asset declaration, is that asset declaration itself is a test on the moral strength of public officers. Once you declare your assets honestly, then it shows that you have capacity for good governance. The moment you don't declare your asset honestly, even from day one, then you are not fit to be in public office. So it is actually a moral strength, and for people to know that once you are in public office, then the issue of asset declaration should be taken seriously, and you must do it honestly and sincerely.
Zephaniah Ishaku Bolos, Board Member, Code of Conduct Bureau, CCB, thank you very much for your closing remarks. Anwar Musa Rapsanjani, Executive Director, Civil Society Legislative Council of Nigeria, CSLAC, please don't stop the good work you're doing to put our country on the right pedestal. Thank you. And of course, Abdullahi Ibrahim Jallo, lawyer and public affairs analyst, who has consistently christened me Muji and other name. Abdullahi Jallo, thank you.
Thank you for that mistake.
All right. So, and Kingsley.
Well, that's it for us at Good Morning Nigeria today. Thank you for being with us. Tomorrow, another program, of course, comes up same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Until then, look after yourselves. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Claire Adilabu Abdulrazak. As always, the fight against rape and rapists is on. We'll invite you to be our partner. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.